acceptable and accepted and credible, quote unquote, studies done on this where they have agreed that there is something there. And so what happens as these particles pass, they get exposed onto these plates, which had to be adjusted for, I think, the basically the spin and curve of the Earth. It was very technical, but they had to figure all that math out so that you were getting a stable image onto the receiving plates that were receiving these atomic particles to form this image. And so that's how they know, like, okay, this is less dense than the other parts of the pyramid and not where we expected. There is something there. But that took a long time to get them to approve. They almost didn't. I'm talking about the Egyptian Antiquities Department, whoever's in charge of that over there. Because it's like, we don't know what you're doing really, and we don't want you messing around. And what you discover, though, is that, to me, is a pattern that is indicative or calls back to thematically of other storehouses of knowledge. And now I think about Oak Island and the different levels and the 90-foot stone and the different chambers. And also that led to Enoch's supposed 9 chambers, Enoch from the Bible, who had the well or the 9 chambers of rooms, and each one, I think, had a different aspect of lost knowledge or knowledge from God about architecture, or knowledge from the angels about cultivation and animal husbandry and architecture. And as you get down, at the bottom was the Holy of Holies, and that's the golden triangle that had the name of God on it, which you said was Fred. You're talking about way back in Oak Island. So but that's the idea, is that it's a step chamber, and this is all speculative until we get in there, and that's not really going to happen.
Which brings me to Dr. Zahi Hawass, who we brought up before. This is a guy that is the former master of antiquities, I believe was his title in Egypt. And when Forrest and I were younger, well, it's not even that long ago. I mean, to us. Back when we started the show even, I think he was still on TV. You would see him if you watched anything on the Discovery Channel or anywhere else about...
There was a great special. I taped it on VHS.
Oh, look at that.
I can't remember who the host was, but I made sure to tune in. I set my VCR Plus code while I was at work, and I taped it, and it was a great, kind of a long special, because they had just made a discovery where it... this is not the one where, I don't know if it's the guy's donkey stepped in a hole, and that might be... that was it. But basically, they found this chamber, it went down, and it was a network of these tunnels, like a spokes in a wheel. But they had found the tomb of Osiris, and it's a ceremonial tomb, but it had water in it. And the first thought was like, oh my gosh, that is like 5,000-year-old standing water. Don't drink it. But there were other chambers, and I just remember him saying like this is phenomenal. And he's like, well, yes, but it's going to take decades, maybe 30, 50 years to really... because they got to go through with their paintbrushes and examine it a little bit. I thought, like, can we just skip to just go down the hallway?
Yeah, hurry up.
Move the artifacts aside, find out what these are, and basically, and again, he was very entertaining, but the aspect I got is that we're going to do this, the Egyptian people, and it's going to take us decades, and so don't expect anything right away.
Hey, Mama, you don't have time to be messing around endlessly scrolling to find a caregiver for your child. Let me clue you into my trick to save time and my sanity when finding a sitter. SitterCity.com. SitterCity knows what they're doing. They've been helping busy parents find the perfect sitter for over 20 years. While other sites overwhelm you by throwing hundreds of random profiles your way, SitterCity matches you with caregivers who actually fit your needs. No endless scrolling, no guesswork. I love that all caregivers undergo ID verification. They have background checks, specialized qualifications, and real parent reviews to know if they showed up on time or really know how to handle my sassy toddler. If I need help, I can talk to a real live human, not a robot, with SitterCity's delightful team. My employer pays for me to get SitterCity completely free as part of my benefits. Yours could too. SitterCity is my go-to for a smarter, simpler way to find reliable, trustworthy care. Don't wait. Go to SitterCity.com/XX and get the help you need.
Listeners, are you looking for a shortcut to better auto insurance for you? Something that takes all the research off your plate? Something that's easy? Something that matches you with lower rates? Something genius? That's where NerdWallet comes in. Their nerds already did the work for you. Just answer a few questions and ta-da! You'll be matched with top insurance providers in your area. Find the right rate for you today at NerdWallet.com. After all, using NerdWallet is more than smart. It's genius. Not all applicants will qualify for the lowest monthly payments. NerdWallet Insurance Services, Inc. California resident license number OK92033.
Time for a sofa upgrade? Introducing Anabay Sofas, where designer style meets budget-friendly prices. Anabay brings you the ultimate in furniture innovation with a modular design that allows you to rearrange your space effortlessly. Perfect for both small and large spaces, Anabay is the only machine-washable sofa inside and out. Say goodbye to stains and messes with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics that make cleaning easy. Liquids simply slide right off. Designed for custom comfort, our high-resilience foam lets you choose between a sink-in feel or a supportive memory foam blend. Plus, our pet-friendly, stain-resistant fabrics ensure your sofa stays beautiful for years. Don't compromise quality for price. Visit WashableSofas.com to upgrade your living space today. Sofas start at just $699 with no-risk returns and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get up to 60% off, plus free shipping and free returns. Shop now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Welch, and this is Astonishing Legends. Let's get back to the show.
One of my very good friends from Los Angeles, and we don't talk so much anymore because I don't live there anymore, but he was from Cairo, and he knew Dr. Hawass. He was like, you got to come with me, Scott. I will take you. I'll take you to the pyramids. And he's like, take you to places that tourists don't go. I was like, why didn't I do that? But I do want to read this article from Dr. Hawass about this particular release. This came out on the 22nd, which is 4 days prior to when we're recording this right now. And this is directly translated from Arabic, so it's going to be a little bit clunky. Egyptian archaeologist Dr. Zahi Hawass denied the reports of the presence of columns under the pyramid of King Khafra. He said in a press release Saturday, "These are lies issued by some non-specialists in ancient Egyptian civilization and the history of the pyramids." He emphasized that the Supreme Council of Archaeology did not give these people any statements to do any work within the pyramid of King Khafra. He said no radar devices were used inside the pyramid, and everything that was said about the presence of columns at the bottom of the pyramid has no basis, and there is no scientific evidence to support these words, and there are no missions operating in the pyramid of King Khafra now. Hawass added that the base of King Khafra's pyramid was carved from the rock about 8 meters high, and there are no columns below this base, according to scientific studies and research carried out around the pyramid in recent years. He pointed out that, quote, "What was said is an attempt to undermine the ancient Egyptian civilization, which is a failed attempt, and these rumors will go to the dustbin of history," end quote.
Huh. Well, not a fan.
He's not a fan,
Okay,
not a big
well,
fan.
I could have guessed that.
Just quickly, in another source, he called it completely wrong and fake news.
Okay.
But to the point that, and again, I'm out of my depth here, but at the point where he said they didn't use radar inside the pyramid, that's false. It's like, they're not saying they did. They
Right.
did this from space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and far away. So you can't keep a radar from going inside of something. So, I mean, you can, but like that's...
Well, no.
I mean, he's saying nobody was on site, so...
Yeah. No, listen.
But I could see his point of view,
Yeah.
and I respect the fact that he is Egyptian and he represents the Egyptian people and the Egyptian culture, and he's not into this.
Because again, their attitude is, and this is just me from having years of watched him and read stuff with them, is, it's their own thing, and they want to own it, and they very reluctantly let anybody outside of Egypt, non-Egyptians, go there and poke around. That's why you're saying the French team had such a tough time, and then the other part of me would say, like, okay, well, listen, not that you need any help, but like if somebody has a good idea and they're not going to hurt anything, why not let them in there? Unless you're afraid of finding out something that destroys the narrative you want to believe in.
Right.
And I'm not saying that narrative is wrong or that there's something else that they should be afraid of. I'm just saying that sometimes you like to keep things the way they are. And I always remember your phrase, I think when we talked about, well, pretty much anything, Kincaid's Cave, all these discoveries, and the phrase, the episodes we did on giants. And you're like,
yes.
The phrase, they're going to have to rewrite the history books. And you're like, what's the big deal? Just rewrite the history books. Who keeps talking about history books? Who cares? And it's like, it's not the books
They've
themselves,
been rewritten
Scott.
a lot, though.
Well, the thing is, it's what you have behind it is a belief system and ego.
Yeah.
and you have a narrative. And I hate to keep bringing up that word, but the more the years pass here and the more we do the show, the more I come to believe, or just notice and try to pay attention to, is the competing narratives.
Right.
I'm not telling you I'm behind any one particular narrative, but that everybody's pushing their story and they want to keep it that way. And so, yeah, they don't want to find any giant bones.
Right.
In fact, there was just a story that when we were researching this of another discovery of bones, and it's like, and then you go back to the same old things that the Smithsonian had they had a barge full of like strange biological artifacts.
No, you can't say that about
giants.
them. That's a credible source. The Smithsonian's a credible source.
Well, were they in the turn of the century, in the late 1800s?
They
early
took all the
1900s?
Kincaid stuff and did it.
That is, and I thought that was kind of
Kincaid's
silly
Cave,
at the
folks,
time.
We covered that a while back too, and so did our
Right.
friends Graveyard Tales. Just did it. I'm sure it's great. So
Yeah, I thought, like, I don't know about that, burning a barge full of stuff. And then it just keeps coming up. It's like little tidbits of like, yeah, that may have happened. And
Right.
so, but that's my point, is that it's just like, let's not rock the boat. Let's just keep it the way it is, because we're invested in this and we're part of this. Whereas if we discover something else, then we're not part of this.
Right.
And it gets very cultural, and it's all about the peoples and them wanting to hold on to what they have. That's why you have a controversy with Kennewick Man and the Lovelock Giants, and people's own stories and their own mythology conflicting now. Now you have indigenous people saying, like, yeah, we did chase these giants in the Lovelock Cave, and they were killing us and terrifying us, so we had enough. We chased them in the cave, lit the entrance of the cave on fire, killed them all. That's the indigenous story. Then you have Western Europeans, white folks, saying like, nah, that's cute, but no. My point is, like, I want to know the truth no matter where it leads. And it's going to be uncomfortable. Truth often is.
This is something that I know you wanted to bring up, and I did want to mention here as we're getting towards the end of the episode. We did find an article from the Smithsonian called "Scientists Are Investigating a Puzzling Underground Anomaly Near the Giza Pyramids." This was published in 2024, just roughly about a year ago, based on studies done in 22 and 23, I think. And what this talks about is a discovery made by researchers from Higashi Nippon International University and Tohoku University in Japan, and the National Research Institute of Astronomy and Geophysics in Egypt. So this was done in cooperation with Egypt. And they identified an anomaly located in a previously unexamined vacant area without any noteworthy above-ground features within the ancient necropolis neighboring the Great Pyramid of Khufu in Giza. This area is part of the Western Cemetery, and they used non-intrusive imaging technologies, specifically ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, and electrical resistive tomography, there's tomography again, to scan the site instead of traditional excavation. This is different from the synthetic aperture radar technology used by Malanga and Biondi that we've been talking about tonight. And the nature of this anomaly was that the scans revealed a shallow L-shaped structure, approximately 33 feet long, buried 6.5 feet deep. It appears to have been filled in with sand after construction, and connected to this structure is a deeper, highly resistive anomaly. The researchers don't know what the deeper structure's contents are, suggesting it could be empty or filled with materials like sand or gravel. So they believe this points to the possibility of the presence of archaeological remains. They have plans to excavate it further, which, as we've said, will probably take a long time. The L shape cannot be created in natural geological structures. Peter der Manuelian, an Egyptologist at Harvard University not involved in the research, noted that the vacant area had previously avoided exploration, and that while Giza has some above-grade L-shaped offering chapels, the underground anomaly is worthy of further exploration. So this is completely unrelated to Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi's work using the synthetic aperture radar. But that's an important note that they found something right there. They're saying something is there. That's the credible source of the Smithsonian. They're using GPR, and they're using a different kind of tomography, but they're saying something is there, and that's like, okay, that's okay. Whatever they're saying is true. And by the way, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be more respected or believed. I'm just making an observation that, and it's something that we, I think, mentioned earlier for us, is that we know that ancient sites have structures beneath them, because ancient sites, and every single one that we've ever covered on this show, even the really ancient ones like Pumapunku and Göbekli Tepe, there's always something underneath the thing they built. There's always something down there.
Well, yeah, and usually it remains undiscovered until people are allowed to poke around. And it
Right.
reminded me of the Moai.
Oh, right. Yes, my friend Tommy mentioned that. I almost left that out. I'm so glad you brought that up. He'd have been mad at me.
No, I remember you mentioned that earlier today. It's like, yeah, you're right. There's whole figures. There's the rest of the body.
Yes.
What's the rest of the story? Underneath the ground, and that, if you ask the indigenous people there, they'll say, how did you get these statues there? Well, they walked there themselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, you used pulleys and ropes and logs, right? Yeah, come on, that's it. Yes, I don't think we know at this point how they got there, but it seems that, yeah, you can maybe move some of it. It doesn't explain everything.
Right.
Not that I'm saying that these things came to life, but why not entertain the magical to a
Yeah.
degree? And then there were also people who had a story, as I mentioned earlier, about, I think it was two twin brothers perhaps that arrived to from over the sea, from over the water, to instruct the people and kind of kickstart their civilization again
Right.
after some great disaster where they had lost all the knowledge and were on the verge of extinction. These people show up, and again, they're not saying they're spacemen. They're just saying that some strangers showed up, other human beings, or maybe other people from the area, but not people from the island, and had the knowledge to say, okay, these are the lost, forgotten ways. This is how you're going to get back on track.
Right.
So again, they're also part of this global narrative of ancient knowledge being restored or kept and then brought forth when it was needed, when the chips were really down. And not saying that it's any one, it's not saying they're Western Europeans or this and that, but just
Yeah, just coming from a
strangers.
smart neighbor who lives somewhere we've never been, and
Well,
is
just
that place we've never been on this planet? Or is
A
it
curious, right?
somewhere else?
Curious strangers, ancient
It was
alien theories
aliens.
say yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but the idea is that it's somebody who seems peculiar to them, but humanoid. Unless I guess you're Viracocha, then you're more godlike.
Viracocha's cool. I mean, Viracocha is one of the coolest dudes we've ever come across.
He did come down from the heavens, and so
Yeah.
ancient China, and was it the Yellow Emperor flying around on a dragon, delivering
right.
knowledge and getting people back on track.
Yeah.
So the Egyptians also have a form of this legend, and could it be possible that the pyramids are even grander than we think? Well, why not?
Yeah.
Let's say they had the way out knowledge and technology to build those things in the first place, which I'm not convinced we still know, and I don't think it's ramps and logs. And it's a lot of people, yeah, but
Yeah.
ramps, logs, a lot of grease, not so sure. Even floating, that was one theory proposed, that they had channels built, a little canal, and they would float the blocks up there. Well, still not satisfying to me. So these people around this time, what we know is that the pyramids are there. They build these things somehow. Still don't know.
You know what else we know? There's pyramids all over the world
Well, yes,
from
again,
different cultures that don't seem like they knew each other. Or
No,
wouldn't.
and we're still, and with LiDAR, we're discovering more and more all
Yeah.
the time
That's right.
in unexpected places. And so, and check out Ancient Apocalypse, because it's fascinating. I think it's fairly level-headed, even though the ideas might be controversial. It's worth a look. It's
Yeah.
beautiful cinematography. Just check it out. But it sparks the imagination and the ideas, and that's what I like about it. And that's it, circling back around to the beginning. And that's why I want to check this out, because I want to know what's going on. Is there something that could be explored further, and what are the implications? Well, again, I think the pyramids are one of the great wonders of the world. Amazing that they did that. Is it any more amazing that there's a massive structure underneath it they were also somehow able to figure out how to engineer and build? It's not that much more of a stretch to
For me, it depends on how deep a hole they had.
Well, yeah, then what'd you do with the sand?
I mean, if it's like truly like a kilometer, I'm like, I don't know about that. That's a deep hole.
It's a deep hole, but it's again, they still don't know. They don't know how they built Pumapunku and Tiwanaku,
Yeah.
and how they got those. It's just the world is full of these things.
Yeah.
You know, the mainstream scientific viewpoint stops at a certain point. It's like, well, we don't know, and it ends there, and that's fair. But what I would say is, like, listen to the indigenous peoples, take in their myths and legends, and consider the impossible or the seemingly impossible, and let the wonder of it be.
So to the point you just made, when you consider the three gentlemen behind this report and this study, Corrado Malanga, Filippi Biondi, and Armando May, You're looking at folks that are putting forth a theory that the world is looking down on because they're using new technology, and the latest statements that they're made haven't been peer reviewed yet, which is really just, I think, the rest of the world and the scientists who are like, okay, it's a slap on the hand. It's like, you just relax. We need time to examine this. By the same token, and we've talked about this on the show before, and we've even had scientists on the show before, I'm pretty sure that Dr. Avi Loeb said the same thing about being surprised at how many people were not willing as scientists to be more open-minded and think outside the box. And, you come back to, it's the most basic example, it's almost a cliche, but you come back to Galileo and the Galileo affair, where he came out and he said, you know what, Copernicus was right. The sun's in the middle, it's not us. And he was branded a heretic and put under house arrest for the rest of his life and lambasted by the Catholic Church for even suggesting such a thing, now that every single person on the planet knows, even the people that think the Earth is flat, right? Don't they think the sun's in the middle? I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, he still fared better than Giordano Bruno from the 1600s. What was it? Born 1548, burned at the stake in 1600. February.
Yes.
An Italian philosopher.
That's right.
Astrologer. He was a cosmological theorist. He believed that the stars were distant suns themselves. Not just, we just didn't have one sun, but the stars were also suns.
That's crazy.
And that
talk.
maybe there were planets of those stars.
Yeah.
And maybe other beings lived there. And for that, they didn't dig that. The Roman Inquisition got him, and he was branded a heretic and burned alive. So ideas are dangerous. And it turns out, though, his ideas weren't dangerous. The people that didn't like the ideas were dangerous to him. All right, so now we're at the point of the show where people probably care the least about. But what do you think is going on here? What is this story about? Like, what did they find? Did they find anything? Do you think there's any credibility to this story here?
Well, I tell you what I think. I love looking into stuff like this. And again, we don't do topical stuff so often. It'll be interesting to see how this show ages when it gets into our back catalog in a couple of years, and people come back and look at it and redo and think, like, okay, what happened here? Because, when you first sent it to me and my friends were sending it to me, I was just like, hey, this is too sensationalistic. I'm caught in a clickbait algorithm. It's coming up everywhere, every source. People are putting Opus Clip versions of it on Instagram with misspelled words. And by the way, try harder, people. Like, these programs that make the viral clips for you for all the platforms, they're super easy to use. Maybe try a little harder with the titles. But
no, it's the people that the notifications I get on the phone of so and so broke their silence. Like, I'm tired of all this broken silence, and I can't believe who did what when.
Yeah, digging into this was kind of a revelation for me, and it was a pleasant one because I was pretty convinced that it was complete BS. And to have gone down into it and look at it closer and find out, for example, that the paper that came out in 2022 was peer-reviewed and it makes some very valid points. And having looked at the pretty pictures in it, I think that it makes sense, the technique they're using. I can't read the math formulas. But it's a real paper, and now they're coming back and they're saying, you know what, these are our conclusions here. A couple of years later, it took us this long to figure it out, but here's what they are. And even though that's not peer-reviewed yet, these people are real educated academics with experience, and they seem to have some level of sophisticated knowledge, which I'm not even well educated enough to judge. But I was less sure that the whole thing was made up clickbait from a questionable source after I looked at it, even though Snopes is calling it false. And I do think that a lot of scientists and researchers are really set in their ways, and they get afraid to get out of their lane at all when it comes to thinking outside the box. But I don't see what the real harm is in applying this new technology to these techniques. We've already seen LiDAR reveal completely lost hidden cities in the jungles. If there is a new technique here that Biondi has developed that is allowing us to ascertain things that we not only didn't know about, but probably can't reasonably excavate indefinitely or possibly ever due to a threat to the existing structures, like, why not try? Why not apply that, and why not try? But I also respect Dr. Hawas's opinion about the ownership of the narrative and what's going on there. And also, if he says research has already been done on what's underneath the pyramids, And where I'm telling you, there's no columns there because we did X, Y, and Z. I'm not the person to argue with you. I will say that I am more believing of it than I expected to be by the time we got through this episode.
Okay, I'll buy that. This has happened a few other times. No, I love it when this happens because it's. I love it when it happens to me is that when your expectations are turned on their head or just altered up. It's like, you know what? We went into this thinking like maybe there's probably nothing to this. Entombed in Zarichina.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty fantastic. And then you start finding out the people involved, and I know there's some maybe classism involved. It's like, okay, it's a Eastern European country. You know?
Yeah.
They're not, maybe they don't have it all together. You know what I'm saying? Like, to put this much effort and money and the government resources into something that is something a psychic said. So that there's something in the ground that's intelligent and mysterious. Again, back into the ground. And that maybe we should check this out. So I applaud them for that, even if it was kind of a folly. I happen to think that there was enough there to warrant checking it out. I mean, come on, what else are you doing? Come on.
Right.
Why not spend a little time and energy? But I do like these stories where, I'm trying to think of another one. Do you remember one off the top of your head where you were pleasantly surprised, let's say, or your expectations were turned around? It turned out to be much more than you thought it would be.
You know, there's a lot of them, Forrest. And by the way, you just mentioned another show. I keep bringing this up. But Entombed in Zarichina, that's another series we did. You should check it out if you can find it. Tsarichina. We should get these links into the show notes of the episodes we mentioned if you folks haven't heard them. But, you know, obviously the first one that really freaked me out was when we covered Skinwalker Ranch, way before it was a TV show, way long time ago.
Skinwalker Ranch, and then I just remembered, of course, Shadow People, where you thought that was
Shadow People.
That was all antihistamine induced. And it turns out that maybe there's more to that.
But some of the really ancient ones, or the really old ones too, were shocking to me because I'm like, oh, this is just folklore. It's a legend now. It's like whatever. You find it in a children's book or Grimm's fairy tales. But the Pied Piper, I was surprised how much we dug up when we covered that. And also another one of my favorites was the Beast of Gévaudan. La Bête de Gévaudan. That was a freaky story. The Man Meter monster too. I was like, what? A pterodactyl? Come on, with a light on its head? Nah. But then you start looking into it, it's like, what is happening? We've covered a lot of stuff, and that's why I love doing this show. I've been blown away by a lot of things that we've covered, but this one was more of a 180 than I expected to make, though. I was more surprised by how this one bore up to a little, digging in on it.
Again, it's like you hear, oh, they found a chamber or an L-shaped chamber. Like, well, that's pretty cool. That's
right.
They found that. They know what it is, and it's filled with sand and debris. Well, that sounds like Göbekli Tepe. Yeah, they did that. They backfilled it, and that should be explored. And I hope they find some artifacts. That'll be cool. And then it's kind of distant until you make a personal connection. And I don't know if I'll be able to get to Egypt to see all this stuff in person, but just as a side note where it makes it personal and it seems kind of abstract, I'll relay a quick anecdote here. I think I've told friends, but not maybe on the show for once, that I visited when I was visiting the museum in Los Angeles that had an exhibit of ancient Egyptian artifacts and very cool stuff, a lot of stuff made with rattan. And just a massive collection. It was a kind of a spectacular deal coming through Los Angeles. I was struck, a little dumbfounded, when they had found furniture that belonged to the royal family. And, it's like, well, here's a chair that was owned by the pharaoh once, or was made for him. Like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then there was a little tiny chair made out of rattan or wicker, was lacquered. And pretty good craftsmanship, that was impressive, but the placard on it said, this was the chair belonging to the granddaughter of the pharaoh. It's like, that's pretty cool. But what blew me away is that on the arms of this rattan chair, that was varnished and lacquered, where her hands would be, her little hands, it was worn off. The lacquer, the varnish was worn off. It just made it really human and connected to that moment. It was her little hands, the granddaughter of the pharaoh, 5,000 years ago, that wore down that varnish. It wasn't from age or erosion. It was because she sat in that chair so much. And suddenly that made it really human and very personal, and I was taken aback. I was like, you know what I'm saying? That's a connection. Like, you can go to a place that's ancient. It's like, whoa, I wonder who put their hands on Stonehenge right here at this, what druid had his grimy paws right at this place that I'm putting my hands, or who kissed the Blarney Stone before me 300 years ago. But seeing that made it was very human, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like suddenly I was connected to somebody who lived 3,000 years ago in a royal family in Egypt.
Yeah.
And so that's different than when you see this pyramid. It's like it's a bunch of rooms, and you know, there's spiral passageway down each one of them, and that's okay, maybe. And then you know, these buildings, and it goes way down, and it's this monumental thing, and it's all supposition until we really get at it. And I guess what I'm saying is that I have very little hope anyone will really get to the bottom of this, pun intended, physically, to see what's really there anytime soon. Maybe if there's some kind of intervention or something happens, but I'm not holding out any hope. But it's cool to think about, and that's fine for me. It's enough to keep my wonder going, like the wicker chair, just imagining, like, oh, what was she like? What was that family like? What would it have been like to have been there? Probably very dangerous, probably would have had me killed, but you know, like, that's why you don't want to go back in time, folks. You'll instantly be dead. Yeah, it just made it like these are people back then who did these things, and the people that built just the pyramid at the time. How to see it happening? I could go back in time and be to stand afar and see how are they actually making this thing. The three of them of this size, and what's really underneath them, and what's the real purpose. Now that you may not find out as an outsider, because I believe this is all like very sacred architecture. That the secrets of it are only known to the few, but built by the many. And we may never know, but it's like, it's pretty cool just to think about and wonder about. So when I saw this story, it's like, well, that's kind of cool. Again, like the L-shaped chamber, that's kind of fascinating. I hope they find something. It's probably, I'll be disappointed if it's just filled with sand, but still, it's pretty cool. It's something undiscovered as of yet that they just found out. And I hope really that they keep making discoveries, because I think mainstream archaeology has it right. You keep looking, you keep dusting off, inch by inch, paintbrush by paintbrush, and it takes a long time, but let's get this right, and let's preserve it as much as possible, but also leave room for the major leaps in discovery and adventure. And if nothing else, it's like going to the moon. It's like, yeah, it's expensive. Is it worth anything? A lot of people don't think so. That money could be better spent at home on people who are really in need. Do we need to be standing on the moon planting flags? Well, that's still a big debate now. Is it worth it? And I think on some point, it's like, as they would say, oh, it's budgeted for that. You know, we have money set aside just for that. And the reason we do that is that it keeps advancing us. And it's something we can all, at least collectively in our imaginations, enjoy and inspire us. And that maybe that's the purpose. Not counting the fact that there's probably alien bases on the dark side of the moon. That aside, just us achieving that goal as a human race is worth something. So I see, let's keep digging under the pyramids. Let's keep discovering new things. Let's be open to new ideas that this could be more magnificent and impossible and wondrous than we could ever imagine. Because that alone is worth something. I've always believed that there is a brave new world out there waiting for us. But not if we lack the bravery to seek the truth.
That's going to wrap up episode 307 of Astonishing Legends. The main show is dark next week, but look for new episodes of the Dead Letter Office weekly on Tuesdays.
Astonishing Legends is edited by Sarah Voorhees-Wendell at VW Sound. Our co-producer is Tess Feifel, who also leads our research efforts and manages our social media. And we're grateful for the hard work of our technical producer, Ed Vicola, behind the scenes. Special thanks to our announcer, John Boland, for lending his voice to our shows.
Hi, my name's Jasmine Barker.
Galaxy-wide in perpetuity.
Hi, I'm Christopher Vigneault. I understand that this is with no implied promise of present or future.
AMY.
Galaxy-wide in perpetuity.
Galaxy-wide in perpetuity.
I understand this is with no implied promise of present or future.
BARKER.
You said artisanal. You say
I go back and
artisanal.
forth.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Here we go.
Our theme, which is available as a ringtone, was composed by Judson Crane at foundermusic.com. All other music and sound design for the show is composed and created by Alan Carestia.
Our logo was created by Tommy Beaver Design, and our animated graphics for social media and YouTube are done by Joshua Sloan at deadstreetproductions.com.
Many episodes have transcripts available. For ones that don't, you can request them by emailing transcripts@astonishinglegends.com.
Astonishing Legends would not be possible without you, our listeners. Visit our store at astonishinglegends.com or interact with us and other listeners on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Discord, and YouTube.
You can also visit us at patreon.com/astonishinglegends, where patrons have access to commercial-free versions of both the main show and the Dead Letter Office, as well as additional bonus content, including the Patreon-exclusive show, The Astonishing Junk Drawer. No part of this show may be reproduced anywhere without permission. Copyright Astonishing Legends Productions.
Good night.
Because I don't think she means our world as in her and the reptilians, but as in us humans and them, the reptilians. That even though we were genetically engineered and put here, they're still willing to share this place with us. That's kind of cool. That's kind of benevolent. That's wild to think that the benevolent species are the underground, disgusting lizard-looking like people. And that the ones that look like us, that descend from the sky and that look like angels, are the evil ones. Very interesting turn of events here. It's crazy that, like, humanity is a psyop when you think about it. Everything. Even if this, is or isn't true, all the teachings and the history books and everything that we've ever read about us is all from one perspective. We rarely get the other side. And so it's very easy to manipulate our species. And if you think otherwise, then you are the person who is the easiest to manipulate. Question: how many alien species are active on Earth at the moment? Answer: as far as we know, 14 species, 11 from this universe, 2 from another bubble, and 1 very advanced from a very different plane. Don't ask me for names, because nearly all are not pronounceable for you. 8 of them are not pronounceable even for us. Most of the species, especially the more advanced, are just studying you as animals, and they are not very dangerous for you and for us, and we work together with some of them. But 3 species are hostile, including the one which was in contact with some of your governments and exchanged their technology for copper and other important things, and which had betrayed your kind. There was, and is, a Cold War between 2 of these hostile races during the last 73 years, and the 3rd species seemed to be the quote-unquote winner in this useless struggle. We expect a hot war, a more hot war, between them and you in the near future. I would say within the next 10 or 20 years. Well, that time is thankfully expired, and we are not worried about that development. In the last time, there were some rumors about a new 15th species which had arrived on Earth just 3 or 4 years ago, but we don't know anything about their intentions, and we were not in contact with them until now. Maybe the rumors are wrong. Okay. I mean, them saying there's only 14 is interesting because I think Greer mentioned recently there were 69. Dr. Stephen Greer mentioned there were 69, which I think is